Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
All right, before we have this conversation about what just happened in this basketball game, we all need to realize and comprehend that the Atlanta Hawks have 17 wins for a reason. Now, this was still a solid victory. Joel Embiid's career high in points is still a fun watch. They improved to, 27-2 at home on the season? That's really successful. So, I get down playing this because it's coming off of a loss in Milwaukee when Joel Embiid did not look very smooth, where he struggled against a very strong opponent on the road. I get why it doesn't feel great, but still, all around, when you hear the news about Ben Simmons, when you hear the Woj bomb go off, well, when you see the Woj bomb go off, that tells you he is going to go through more treatment and get more evaluations. Knowing that that is a huge loss for this Sixers team and pretty much a big piece to their identity, any win is solid to me right now. I don't care how it comes. I don't care if you blow the lead in the third quarter and fight back late in the fourth. Knowing that Ben Simmons is going to miss some time, all the wins are important. You have the Miami Heat losing on the road to Cleveland. You climb back up into a little bit of a fight. Now, you're still below them in the standings, but you move closer. You inch closer. Every win is important. I don't care who it is against. When you look at the standings, they need to fight and claw their way into a home court advantage for the first round because, as you see, it is crucial to this team because at home, they are unbelievable. There's something about this crowd. They feed off the boos when they're playing bad, and when it's really good, when it's really loud in there, because someone like Joel Embiid is going off and getting to the free throw line and dropping an insane amount of points, teams can't handle it. The opposing teams can't handle it. And you saw that throughout their 29 home games so far this season. It's pretty miraculous that they've only lost 2 home games all season long. What? That's crazy. Now, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this game. Before we do, though, we need to hear a word from my sponsor, SeatGeek. Do you want to go to a Sixers game and save money when doing so? What if I told you you can use the promo code BROADS for $20 off your total purchase? Save $20? Hell, use it for free parking. It's a no-brainer. Use the promo code BROADS today. So, Joel Embiid, he went 14 of 15 from the charity stripe. And he also shot 17 of 24 from the field. He started off the game hot, and he rolled with it. In the first quarter, he has these finesse moves where he's working in the post, and he's got beautiful footwork. He's also blocking shots big time as well. He followed up that sequence with a in-rhythm 3 where he was feeling it a little too much and ended up bricking and going out of bounds. I remember that thoroughly, actually. But hey, when you make those type of plays, when you're doing work in the post and then you respond on the other end with the block, you can feel yourself in that moment. You would live with that any day of the week when you have a star in the NBA. Yo, fella, you feeling yourself after some explosive plays like that? By all means. But Joel Embiid was rocking 49 points. He had some monster putback dunks. He was even feeling himself to the point where knocking down threes off the dribble late. And then he's dancing. He's got this personality. He's smiling. He's goofy. And that's going to piss people off because when you go against the Bucks and you shoot poorly and you look defeated and you look dominated by the opponent, which is a really successful team in this league, fans get annoyed. People get bothered because you throw up 49 and you start dancing and you start feeling the crowd and the energy, and it's like, okay, all right. So I do get that side of it. Do it against a good team. But you see Sixers Twitter, which is very toxic. Do it against the Bucks. And I get where they're coming from. The Bucks are 48-8 for a reason. Who's doing that against the Bucks? Now, I do agree I want to see Joel Embiid play the way that he did against better opponents. But it's not as if all these players are dominating the Bucks at will and Joel Embiid is just not. They are 48-8 for a reason. Now, he does need to be better against better opponents. I'm not saying he doesn't. but to just assume that every time he plays the Bucks, he's going to have some sick, insane 40-plus night, well, that's just not realistic because the Bucks are a very great team in this league. There were some other players that stood out to me. Tobias Harris was definitely one of them. Coming off of the right knee contusion. Now, I was able to get down to the game early enough to see Tobias Harris warming up, and if you don't already, follow me on Twitter at Broads81 because I put up all sorts of pre-game shooting and pre-game interviews with Brett Brown, and I post them all on my Twitter if you like to get some sort of Sixers news prior to games and during games. I would say it's a good follow, if you will. But I was able to see Toby warming up, getting his shots up, and he looked fine. His knee looked fine, which I'm shocked because he went from doubtful to questionable to available, just like that. Boom, just like that. So after the game, he stated to the media that if he's playing, there's no excuses. He's 100%. Now, what he's saying by that is if he's going out there to play, it doesn't matter what he's at. He's out there to play. He's got to perform. So I thought his 25-point performance was very much needed for this team. He went 9 for 18 from the field, and normally when you see Tobias Harris score 22 points, it's in about 20 shots, 22 shots. I thought he was very effective in this basketball game. He was drilling from behind the arc. He had a very successful game. I thought Furkan Korkmaz was a nice spark plug off the bench. The starting lineup was weird. Obviously, without Ben Simmons, we're going to question every game what's going to happen. And just like I alluded to this a couple conversations ago, Brett even stated you're going to get something new every night, whether it's Alec Burks, whether it's Josh Richardson, whether it's Furkan Korkmaz or Shake Milton. You're going to get different looks because it's just going to be that way at this point in time. You don't have a set backup point guard, a set guy to go to replace Ben Simmons. And I kind of agree with the way that he's going to approach this. So the starting lineup was Shake Milton, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid. So Al Horford and Embiid did end up playing together in this basketball game, and I didn't think Al Horford was horrendous like he has been throughout a decent part of this season. He only had 7 points, but he provided a lot with grabbing boards. He had a big block, and he also made some really nice assists, like legitimately really solid assists, which was great to see. I mean, you saw plays at least that made sense out of Al Horford, and I hate that I feel satisfied by that. Like I'm satisfied for an game because he's been giving us a game for so long. So that's really what it is. I'm just satisfied with it not being pathetic and ugly. And I know that. I'm not happy about that. But, I mean, what are you going to do? I'll take it over what he's been giving us any day of the week because at least it's a step in the right direction. The way that third quarter ended, though, the way it played out as a whole, I mean, you score 41 points in the first quarter. So you take a nice lead. You're up 17 after 1. The second quarter was tied 28-28. The third quarter, you allow 40? You allow 40, and Trae Young hits this crazy shot out of inbounding the ball, having a couple seconds until the quarter's over, and drilling a shot to take a 1-point lead. Like the Sixers didn't feel like defending. They didn't feel like competing. How many times have we said that so far this season? You had some different lineups out there, and they weren't working. To get outworked by the Atlanta Hawks in the third quarter to that degree, it's embarrassing. Now, they turned it around. They turned it on. They competed, and they played defense in the fourth quarter. They only allowed 20... Where are we here? They only allowed... I got to do a better job at, I don't know, maybe handwriting and writing my notes down in a way that I can read them. Seriously, I still can't find this here. 20 points. Sheesh, bro. Come on, get it together. 20 points in the fourth quarter while scoring 38. So in the fourth quarter, they just took control, and they were the better team, and they are the better team, and they are longer. They're more physical. They have better structure than the 17-win Atlanta Hawks team. Believe it or not, okay? I know people are thinking, what, are you serious? The 76ers have more structure than another NBA team? Yes. Yes, they do. And that team is the Atlanta Hawks. I don't know if I'm making this any better. Josh Richardson did a good job defending Trae Young. Trae Young struggled from behind the arc. He shot 2 for 11 from 3. Now, he did finish with 28 points. He took 22 shots, and he was minus 17. So it wasn't as if he had a great game. But the Sixers did a good job at defending the perimeter and defending him specifically for a really good portion of this game. If you remember, he did some damage against this team earlier in the season, and realistically, the Sixers struggle against some guards, especially when they start playing pick and roll. The Sixers fall apart defensively. They're able to get their shots, but not really in this one. And I thought Josh Richardson did a good job by the perimeter, and this team as a whole did a good job on Trae Young, because let's be real, he is their motor. He is their go-to guy. He is the player that sparks the team. Other players scored some points. Hunter had some points, and Collins had some points. But that's going to happen when someone like Trae Young is struggling. Hey, force someone else to beat you. If you're forcing the Atlanta Hawks to score in other ways outside of Trae Young, I think you'll be in a good position. Now, he did finish with 28 points, so it's not like he scored 0, but to score 28 points, to still be minus 17, and to barely shoot any threes whatsoever, that's saying a lot. One of the things Brett Brown was unhappy with was the and ones that they were allowing. They were allowing too many and one opportunities for the Atlanta Hawks, specifically in that third quarter. This week, the Sixers have some winnable basketball games. They took care of business tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. They have the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road, and they have the New York Knicks at home. This will buy us time to find out more news about Ben Simmons, to hopefully find out a timetable so we know what exactly is going on. Because as of now, it just keeps getting pushed back, and we need to wait for more tests to go through and some more evaluation stuff. So we're just going to have to wait. But the moral of the story when it comes to Ben Simmons is he's going to miss some time. And that is a man who is so effective when it comes to this team. You better hope that everyone else is going to be able to collect victories against beatable teams until he returns. That 4th seed is so important. That's what my eyes are on. That 4th seed right now. That is what is so important to me. 4th seed. Get home court advantage for the first round. That's where I'm at. Once again, I am going to be satisfied with that right now. Similar to the conversation with Al Horford. I hate that I'm satisfied by Al Horford having a game, but it's not a game. Same here when it comes to the seeding. Get me 4th seed. I hate that I'm going to be pleased with 4th seed because that only gives us home court advantage for one round. But hey, with where we're at now, my expectations have changed, obviously, and that's what I need to settle with. That's what I have to do. You know who is somewhat, I don't know, maybe being a little underwhelming lately is Matisse Thybulle. He only played 11 minutes. It's like he doesn't feel like attempting any sort of offense anymore. I don't know. I mean, I know his game is purely defense, but it's almost as if he just shuts out the offensive side of the game anymore. He specifically, I remember, had a chance to shoot a 3, and he was unwilling to, and he decided to kick it somewhere else instead. Now, he had some stats on the defensive side in this game, but he hasn't been as impactful, and it looks like he hit a rookie wall. So what this means is next game he should be very solid and very effective because I'm calling him out, and that's how this works. Glenn Robinson III and Alec Burks had some run. They were able to score some points. I thought for their limited action, they provided pretty much what they are. Like, that's what I somewhat expect out of them. Like, that's what I feel like they would average when it comes to where they are at for the 76ers. I don't expect to get the Alec Burks against the Brooklyn Nets. Now, that might happen here and there, but what I got out of those two is what I feel like they would be as a 76er. How about the Bucks? I was just looking around the NBA and the scoreboard tonight. The Bucks, they won, but they went into overtime with the Washington Wizards. And the Heat also went into overtime and as I stated, lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that was a big loss, a huge loss, and it helps out the Sixers without a doubt. I loved Embiid tonight. I loved his dominance. I loved his aggressiveness. It was awesome. He knew that there was no one on the other side who can guard him. No one at all. So he took advantage of it. That's awesome. That's what you expect him to do when he's able to do that. Do that. I get the frustration because you want him to do that against Giannis. You want him to do that against the Miami Heat. You've seen him do it against the Boston Celtics, and even this year he had one of his best games this season against the Boston Celtics doing just that. So I get why you would want him to do that against other teams, but when he does it against the Hawks, I'm not just going to act like, I don't care at all. All right, he did what he was supposed to do, but still 49 points. That's still great. A double-double. He almost touched 50 points, and he should have if he hit that one free throw late in the game. Joel Embiid claimed this was not the best game of his career. He dated it back to the game against the Lakers, where he had 40+, where he grabbed a bunch of boards, where he had 7 blocks, when he was effective passing the ball. That game stood out to him in his mind. Not the 49-point performance, which was a career high tonight against Atlanta. He's got one that really goes back farther in his brain, and 7 blocks while scoring 40+ and grabbing double-digit boards. Yeah, I'd say that's impressive. I'd say that's a good day at the office. I'd say he clocked in and made his money in that one. But overall, it was good. So I think it is time now to open up the 24/7 Anytime Hotline. As always, the phone number is 856-442-9805. And you can call in at any time, no matter what time it is, no matter where you live, and leave a message. And if you're lucky, it will be chosen to be played on the podcast. So let's start us off.
Bros, it's Connor, big fan. Man, the game was iffy at one point, but they got it done. And I got to tell you what, Joel Embiid, man, he looked excellent. I mean, obviously, he had the, career high 49 points, but I mean, he looked aggressive. I think he was like, we're not going to lose to this team at home. Like, he took over. I love it. And I love at the end when Serena Winters was interviewing him and she was like, because you're the best, in the league, right? And he was like, nah, but you know what? Get. I love it. I love it. Hopefully Ben Simmons does come back soon because, he is still a big piece of the puzzle. I don't want to hear people saying that, Embiid, see what happens when Ben Simmons isn't around, like how good Embiid does. Like that, it doesn't work like that, man. And, I'm just really happy though that the team stepped up. Al Horford actually looked like he cared. He had some big plays. I loved it. Oh man, what a great game. Man, love your show. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Connor. Yeah, he did drop the F-bomb on TV, and afterwards, he was asked about the best player in the world because he brings it up a lot, and it's something that he stated before the game against Giannis, and then he gets shut down against the Bucks, so it was brought up, and he called out the media and said, do a better job, and the whole media room started laughing. He looked at the media member who wrote about it, which is a lot of guys, and he said, you guys do a better job. You guys do a better job. And it was kind of a funny moment, but so was dropping the F-bomb. And you mentioned Al Horford. Yeah, I thought Al Horford didn't look pathetic, and sadly that's where we're at when it comes to how Al Horford played as a whole.
I guess we can look at this one, Hunter, as the atypical Sixer performance at home, especially against an inferior opponent. I mean, at some point they get off to a huge lead. You think it's going to be a laugher throughout. And then at some point, inexplicably, it all falls apart. Yet they find a way in the fourth quarter to tighten up the defense and get it done. But basically, in a nutshell, Embiid saved their ass tonight. He was the dominant player on the floor. And, I'd like to see, granted, he's not going to score 50 every night, but this type of performance from him going down the stretch, not just against the Hawks of the world or the Nets of the world, but against the Raptors and the Celtics and the Lakers and teams like that. If he's the best player in the NBA, as he claims to be, he needs to be self-motivated, not by Barkley and O'Neal, but he needs to go out there, command the paint, and be the boss 4 quarters a night, every night.
I don't disagree. I think it's kind of comical that everyone brings up, well, Joel, you said you were the best player in the world, and I bring it up as well, right? So I just think it's so funny that the narrative around Joel Embiid is what he is saying, his talk, the way he talks about himself, the way he describes himself after dominating performances, and then he comes out and has a dud, or he comes out and doesn't play at a high level, and everyone just gets on top of him. And to be fair, that's pretty much our jobs, right? I mean, you come out and say something, and then you don't support that, you don't back it up. Well, of course we are going to get on top of you. We are going to question you about those things. We will question what's going on here. Why is this not a common thing? Why does this not happen every single night? But as I'm listening to callers, as I'm seeing people tweet at me, as I'm seeing people talk about Joel Embiid as a whole, the common theme is you claim you're the best player in the world. So I just find it funny. That's all I'm trying to say. But yeah, he does put it on himself, obviously, because without him saying those words, what would we have to say about it? Nothing.
Hey, bros, just got done watching the Sixers-Hawks game, and a very good win for the Sixers team on their home floor. Joel Embiid looked absolutely dominant, 49 points and 14 rebounds. Just one thing I got to say about Joel Embiid. I mean, he played phenomenal and looked dominant, but he needs to play like this, give the same effort, the same energy as he did tonight against not just weaker teams. He needs to play like this against better competition like Milwaukee, like Toronto, like Boston. It's great he's beating up on these weaker opponents, but if he wants to take that next step, I would love to see him do that against, like I said, Milwaukee or, just a much better team, the Atlanta Hawks.
I think, here we go. I think, did you guys call each other and say, hey, let's call Broads back to back and have the same point? You guys are spot on, though. We do want to see him perform against Marc Gasol and not drop 0 points. We would love to see him be more dominant against these teams. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Yes, we do. But on the schedule, on this date, the Atlanta Hawks came to town. And with that being the game on the schedule, that's all he can control, is that specific game. So people are now not embracing a 49-point performance, almost 50 points, just because who it was against where he can't control it. Now, I'm not arguing that he does this against bad teams and doesn't dominate the same rate at the same level against those opponents, but isn't there reason for that? Like, doesn't that kind of make sense? He's not going to be dropping 49. That's anyone. I mean, besides like LeBron James of the world, you're not going to be dominating a 48-8 team every time the Sixers match up against them, because there's a reason why the opponent is that way. Now, I'm not making excuses. I'm just logically breaking down why he doesn't do this against better teams. I would like him to do it more than he does, but to expect it every single night doesn't make sense, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense. He's not the smartest basketball player in the world either. We can date this back to the game against the Bucks. Second half starts, and what's he do? 2 dumb fouls right in a row. He gets in foul trouble, and he's got to get on the bench. He's not a smart basketball player as a whole. I think we know that by now. So that also plays a factor into why he doesn't do this on a consistent basis.
Hey, bro, it's Mike. I called you last time about the free throws and how Embiid could be dominant, and he had 14 tonight. So, yeah, he had 35 points against the Atlanta Hawks. That's awesome. But 14 of them are free throws, and that's when the headlines are saying dominant, and that's when they're saying Joel Embiid is at his best, and I believe he is when he's at the charity stripe at least 15 times. When he's at the charity stripe in double figures, this team's dangerous, and especially the way Furkan Korkmaz has been lighting it up for us. I'm loving it.
It is funny how we just assume Embiid's going to knock down his free throws at will. Remember how dominant Shaq was? Remember how pathetic he was at shooting free throws? Think about big men in general in this league throughout years and years and years. Because of the size of their hands, they're not able to execute and deliver at the free throw line. Joel Embiid does it with his eyes closed. We take it for granted. I really do believe we just take it for granted. Like, oh, Joel Embiid's going to knock down 2. Oh, Joel Embiid's going to knock down 2. Oh, Joel Embiid's going to knock down 2. When it's not common. Guards don't even shoot as well as he does at the charity stripe. It's so impressive what he is able to do.
Hey, bros, what up, man? I just got finished watching this basketball game, and I gotta say, Joel Embiid is a beast. When he plays like that, he's hard to stop. I just want to see that more. And I want to see us win more games on the road. 9-20, 9-21, something like that. Let's start winning games on the road. And also, that third quarter, that was something else. I've seen that too much this season.
I feel like that's something we've seen with the Sixers for years. There's always one quarter that is so abysmal that it makes our eyeballs bleed. Joel Embiid was special. You are right. Joel Embiid was an unbelievable watch in this game. And I personally enjoyed the way that he celebrated and embraced the crowd and started dancing after knocking down shots. It's just comical, and it is Joel Embiid. And one of the things he's working on is being able to have fun, which is how he determines having fun, and still being professional at the same time and working on his craft. And it's not all about being silly, but it's not always about being, stone-faced and no personality either. He's trying to find his mix. But one thing I have noticed is he is constantly post-game talking about the boos from the crowd. He is hearing it. He is allowing it to, I'm going to say the word affect, but that doesn't mean negatively. It doesn't mean positively either. It's one of those two. It just depends on every given night. It's not affecting him negatively every night. Obviously, this game, it affected him positively. We all know by now that Embiid does have this weird thing about him where he plays based off of his emotional tie with the fan base. When he got booed here on the starting lineup, and then he ended up just putting his head down, grinding, and having like the emoji of Ben Simmons, the nose, the steam blowing out of the nose. He had that type of mentality. Like, he needs drama to deliver. So I guess that's why he focuses on how the crowd is towards him and towards the team, because it drives him to perform at a certain level, is what I'm trying to get at. And some players don't need that. I would say majority of great players don't need that. But for some reason, Joel Embiid does. When he has it, though, it's at the top of the league. So it's annoying that he needs that. But at the same time, if he's going to give you this, how do you complain? So thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, and I will see you next time.